Hello, Mrs. Ball. This is Cheyenne Calhoun. I'm one of your students from your Women's Gender Studies class, and this is my cousin Savannah Williams. And I'm going to be interviewing her because I would consider her an influential woman, an influential woman in my life because we're very close. So, my first question for you would be, how would you describe our relationship?
Me and Cheyenne were raised as sisters. We're first cousins, but since I was born, we were always around each other. We were raised because my mom and her mom, which is my dad's sister, my aunt, have always been really close. But even, despite that, she was my first cousin, and she was the only first cousin I had. So we were always raised as sisters. I mean, I'm 19 years old, and still to this day, I call her sis or sissy, and very rarely, only if I'm mad at her, do I call her Cheyenne. So, me and Cheyenne we're really close, and we've gotten closer as we grew up. Actually, now, when we're not together on the weekends, when we are together, we fight just like siblings. But when we're apart, we whine, and she asks me, "When are you coming back over? When are you coming? I'm bored." So that's basically our relationship in a nutshell.
Okay.
There was a squirrel over there. That's why I looked over there. Short attention span.
Okay, my next question is, what are some of the first memories or lessons that we've learned together?
One of the first memories that I have with Cheyenne was actually the day that we decided to stop hating each other as kids. We literally, I remember we were fighting over some toy, and we just kind of looked at each other, and we had an adult conversation about it. Like, I was like 3, and she was like 5, and why do we hate each other so much? I don't know. Maybe we should stop hating each other. This is getting old. I mean, as kids, me and Cheyenne, we were always a lot more mature than our age. We always had mature conversations with our parents, even as kids. So that's one of the first things that I remember of Cheyenne, because really before that, it was all fighting and pointless yelling at each other and just kids, bickering. But that day is actually probably the first memory that I have of Cheyenne.
Okay. All right. One of the things that we were suggested to talk about was one of the things that, I admire about you and that I would like to pass down to my own children someday. And one of the things I thought of, out of the many things that I admire about you, is your faith as a Christian, because we come from a big Christian family. So could you tell me about, what kind of relationship you have with God?
Oh, that's a long story. Okay. Well, growing up, I was never really steadily in church because my mom, we were never really big in church, but we did believe in God. We did have that value instilled in our home, and but I never really went to church a lot except for on holidays, because Mom knew the family that was at church, the preacher, because he was a friend of the family, so of my dad's family anyway. But anyway, he liked her too. But anyway, so when I was about from about 7th grade to about freshman year, I wasn't really sure, because that's a hard age.
Sorry about the rooster.
Interrupted me. I wasn't really sure at one point if I believed in God, because I was really lost, and that was a really hard age, and I just really, you change a lot in that time period, and I just didn't really know a lot about it. But despite the guy that I was dating at the time, I went to a music festival called Ichthus. And if you don't know what Ichthus is, it's just a big Christian music festival. It's in Lexington. And it's basically like a Christian Woodstock. Well, that light went off.
That's okay.
And, I mean, I had been going to church for a little while because I wanted to get back into, I wanted to know more. And something that day, when I was listening to a song, they started having like some kind of speech. This guy came up, he was a speaker, and he came up and he started talking about, the different seats that Christians sit in. And, the first seat is the person who goes to church all the time, who's on fire for God at all times. The second seat is the person who believes in God but doesn't exactly, isn't on fire for God but still goes to church and still believes, just as strong but just doesn't share the word as much. Third seat is the person who is saved but doesn't make an effort to do God's will anymore. They just kind of believe. They're not a devoted Christian, And fourth seat is people who aren't worried about getting saved. They just, God exists, whatever. And I started thinking about that, and he was talking about, the message really got to me that day, and
He's right behind you right now.
get around. If he vlogs me in the back, there's going to be a fight, and you can catch it on video. But that day, I went with my current boyfriend. But despite the fact who I was with, it didn't matter. He wasn't as into it as I was, but I did take him with me. I got saved that day because the guy gave, an option. He was just like, if you want to get saved, you need to, start praying with me now and just do it, because you could be dead tomorrow. Where would you go? And that kind of scared me that he said it that way, because life is very unpredictable, and you never know what's going to happen from one day to the next. So I thought about it for a minute, and I saw everybody around me, getting down on their knees and praying, and I just, I felt something in my heart that was like, what do you have to lose? And I thought about it, and I was like, that's right, what do I have to lose? I wasn't testing God or anything, but there was just something in my heart that told me, you need to do this. You need to do this now. So I did. I got down. Of course, I was in tears. Who isn't when they get saved? And I got saved that day, and I think it was 2 years later, I got baptized at my home church. And since then, I will admit I'm not the greatest example of a Christian, but I do believe that I have a good relationship with God, because, although me and God don't talk as much as we used to, my faith in God is really strong. I feel like as long as you have faith that everything's going to turn out, because God wants the best for you. As long as you have faith in Him and know that that's who's in charge of your life, that's who's guiding you, and that's who you're letting guide you, then I believe that that's what makes a good relationship with God. And that as long as you completely disregard the fact that Satan is trying to get to you in every way, is if you just even disregard that he even exists, just whatever, then I feel like you'll make better decisions, especially knowing that you're saved and you know where you're going regardless. But that doesn't mean like go out and party and be a convict. I'm just saying, like, knowing that you know where you're going makes you want to make better decisions in the long run. So, basically, that's my story.
It's a very great story, too. Okay. Another topic I thought would be interesting to discuss would be what it was like for you growing up. I know that your parents got divorced at a young age, and I thought that might be something, like how did that influence you?
Well, I have no memory of my parents being together.
Mm-hmm.
If, I mean, they were divorced before I was 2 years old. I mean, I was about 16 months old, about a year and a half old,
Mm-hmm.
when they divorced. So, 16 months, not a year and a half, what am I saying? Anyway, I was a little over a year old, but, I don't remember them being together, so it really didn't bother me that bad, but it is hard to have your parents divorced,
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I mean, in my opinion, I'd rather not have them together, because I know them both and they're polar opposites now, and that would be awful, but I feel like I can understand where kids come from when their parents divorce,
Mm-hmm.
Because it is hard to go from one parent to the other. I mean, I'm 19 years old, and I still have to fight with both of them to spend holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just recently on Thanksgiving, I had to sacrifice spending Thanksgiving with my mom so that I could spend it with my dad. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's been like that my whole life, but you learn to make those decisions because it's something you have to do. And really, for me, it made me be more mature at a younger age about making decisions and considering people's feelings. And, like, I guess that's what kind of influenced me most, is learning to be mature at a younger age. And just since I was 13, I mean, I've been making these decisions, and when I was about 13, they stopped making them for me, and they told me, okay, you're old enough to make these decisions on your own now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done that since I was about 13, and which is about as far back as I can remember. I mean, as my teenage years, but it's always been difficult, but you learn to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to have your parents divorced,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it is for the best. And because I don't have a memory of them being together, I can't say, oh, it was horrible when they were together. But I assumed that it was, because I know both of them. As you get older, your parents kind of become your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of learn about them as a person instead of a parent. And if they were in my circle of friends, I would not recommend them to be together at all. So, I mean, that's basically all, really, that I can say about having my parents divorced. So.
Okay. Well, my final question for you, with this being a women's gender studies class, is what does it mean for you to be a woman, and what is your idea of femininity?
Okay, that can branch out into a lot of other topics. You're going to have to break that down and make it, rephrase it.
Okay. Okay, just like...
Like, what does being a woman mean to you?
Yeah, what does being a woman mean to you? Like...
Well, I believe that I'm the type of person that I'm not really a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that a woman does have a role in society.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe we're completely powerless. I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that, as with any person, you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be male or female, you can make a difference. But a woman, because, we are considered, however many years it's been, we are still considered lesser because we're women.
That is true. To this day, in this society, we still deal with that.
But if you do good in your life, if you make it, if you make something of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you show others that although you are a woman, but you make a difference, and you do matter, I think that is really what being a woman is all about, is showing that you are strong. You know, no matter what happens to you, whether it be, I mean, some women crumble from getting divorced. Some women crumble. I mean, stuff happens every day to women. Women get abused. Women get raped. I mean, every day. But I think those trials in life, that's what, I'm not saying that it happens on purpose, because, I mean, obviously people have free will. I'm not saying God does that to people. But I do believe that being strong is a woman's role. Being strong in her family, in God, in her house, and, you know, showing that she is an individual and that she can handle herself, honestly. I mean, I think that's what being a woman is all about, because, I mean, obviously, we were chosen to bear the children. We're obviously the stronger ones. I mean, come on. I won't go into detail with that, but there's some very obscene things I have to say about that. But, basically, I believe being strong is what being a woman's all about. Just because if you think about it, a woman has to go through a lot of things in her life that men don't have to experience, mentally and emotionally. Even though women can come across as crazy sometimes, and I'm crazy, I don't deny it, but we can come across as crazy or, you know, emotionally unstable. I mean, we can break down and cry at any minute. But I believe that because women we're built to be mentally and emotionally strong through whatever trials in our life. We may not be physically stronger. Some women choose to be physically stronger. But I believe that being strong, as in emotionally, mentally, inside, being strong that way is what a woman's all about, because that's the opposite of a man. Men are physically stronger. Women are stronger inside. And I believe that that's what a woman's place is to be strong.
Well, Savannah, I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one.
Ding.
But before I close this video, I'd just like to thank you for, you know, always being there for me and being such an influence in my life.
No problem. That's what family's about.
Yeah, and you made me cry on my birthday by saying something similar, so here's the payback.
Well, you know.
So, but thank you for doing this interview, and that's a wrap.